What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Thursday. Hope everybody's week is going well. We're almost back to a football weekend. Well, technically we are, Jack, because tonight, Thursday night football, Niners and Giants, but going to have a big weekend of football as well as the Titans try to put together a win streak for the first time in a very long time as they head up to Cleveland against the Nick Chubless Browns and the Deshaun Watson led Cleveland Browns, and we'll find out which quarterback with a lot on the line has the better chance to lose the game for his team, because that's happened. Both teams are 1-1 in the win-loss column, and both quarterbacks have had games of turnovers that have ended up being a loss for their team on this young season. So, Jack, welcome in. We'll talk about what these two quarterbacks have on the line, which one of them has more on the line, and then an old friend alert as Jim Schwartz is getting a lot of attention this week, Jack. A lot of shows, radio, podcasts, questions at press conferences. Jim Schwartz is in the news cycle this week. Is it too much in the news cycle? We'll talk about that, old friend alert. And then, hey, I have the magic bucket. I got a question for you. Did you go to Taco Bell last week?
I have yet to go to Taco Bell. I need to do that.
Okay.
All right. How about oh man, it's a dark cloud lingering above my life, Austin. $15 on the Taco Bell menu goes a long way in your organs and inside of you. So
that's right.
I've got to really time this out right. I don't know, doing
that's
it close to the weekend helps because we do have a game day show on Sunday.
That's right. You sure do. All right, Jack, before we officially get going, tell the people what they got to get going, what they got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. While you guys trickle in, it's going to be an awesome show today. I'm excited to hear some of y'all's thoughts in the chat throughout the day. But while you're trickling in, make sure to share that show on Facebook. Share it to your Titans groups. I know all of y'all are in them. I see y'all post on these Titans Facebook groups, so make sure you get that link in some of your favorite Titans Facebook groups. If you're watching on Twitch, text that link to your Titans your group texts. We want all the Titans fans in here. We want to grow this conversation. We want to hear from all of you today. And finally, if you're watching on YouTube, tap that bell icon at the top of your screen. Turn those notifications on so you get an update every time A to Z Sports goes live or posts any type of content to their YouTube channel. We are full of Titans content this time of the year, and you don't want to miss out on anything, especially this close to the Browns game.
That's right. All right, without further ado, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry of the Tighten Up podcast and Titan Game Day Live, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports, so follow us there. Also hit us up on all of our other social media channels for great content about the Tennessee Titans on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Gotta thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans and start your process at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations in the Middle Tennessee area: Franklin, Columbia, and Murfreesboro, online at KrebsKubota.com. So, so it's does Jack have to do 2 magic buckets today because you still have not done the it's my money and I need it now bet that we had last season. I gave you a pass for Kyle Phillips in that bet because you were supposed to wash my car. But Kyle Phillips
come
hurt.
on, that's not.
Yeah, I gave you a pass on that one. So you still have to go down to the 5th and Broad and yell, "It's my money and I need it now." Because Malik Willis did not score a special package touchdown last season. But you've also got 15.
We can knock that out the next Titans home game when we're down on Broadway. Maybe make a quick pit stop up there. And for you Titans fans out there, just be on the lookout. You may hear a bullhorn.
That's right. All right. So that's coming up against the Bengals, in 2 game weeks from now, where Jack and I will be there at Acme on the rooftop for that, just like we were for week 2 against the Chargers. But Jack, let's talk about this matchup because the Titans and the Browns both need a win, right? That's pretty clear. They both need a win. in the AFC against a team that could be a playoff contender. We know the Browns have lost Nick Chubb for the season after that gruesome injury on Monday night. And now you've got Ryan Tannehill and Deshaun Watson, who are two quarterbacks who could either win the game for their team, or lose the game for their team. And so, we know about Deshaun Watson, and the Titans do as well because of their time playing against him in the AFC South. And Mike Vrabel was asked specifically about what that helps them with, and if they've seen any type of change in Watson since he's been in Cleveland and he started the last 8 games for the Browns.
Look relatively the same as he did when he was in division, or has his style changed at all over the last couple of years?
No, I don't think his style has changed. It extends plays. He's got strength and great play strength in the pocket to wait out receivers to get him through to the second window. Extends plays. He's got length and stiff arm, and will scramble and can run to get what he needs to get to. Can throw the ball to all parts of the field.
Oh, Jack, something I noticed there is that Mike Vrabel spent a lot of time talking about his athletic ability to extend the play, stiff arm. He's long. He can do that. And then he's like, well, yeah, he's also got a good arm. He can make all the throws, like at the very end. But that was a lot on Deshaun Watson's athletic ability to extend the plays, and not a lot about his passing ability, because that's been a struggle for Deshaun since he's been a Brown.
Yeah, and that's a problem because in order to beat this Titans team, getting it done on the ground is already going to be hard enough with this front seven breathing down your neck all game long. The Titans secondary has been vulnerable for the past few seasons, and especially last week. Now they're going to probably get Christian Fulton and Elijah Molden back this week, but at the same time, those guys still have to make plays when they're in there. They're far too inconsistent as a unit against quarterbacks that can throw the ball down the field. However, Deshaun Watson, ever since his return, he hasn't been able to really beat defenses down the field with his arm. And it's not like he's got, a bunch of nobodies out there running routes for him. Amari Cooper's there. Elijah Moore is there. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is one of the better threes you're going to find around the league. So he's got what he needs back there. He just hadn't been able to put it together totally. And if I'm a Browns fan, that concerns me, especially watching the way that the Titans played last week, because the Chargers hit some explosive plays. We haven't really seen Deshaun Watson do any of that so far.
No, not at all. And we'll discuss the stats that these two guys have over the last 8 starts here in a second. But Ryan Tannehill is also riding the wave, and he was asked about that specifically on, a fan base coming after you and then you having to respond to it.
Ryan, in this league, guys can go from being, the person that everyone wants ridden out of town on a rail one week to the hero the next week. With your experience, does that maybe help you deal with going from the opener to the performance that you turned in on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't ride that wave. I know a lot of people, especially outside the buildings, ride those waves. But personally, take it 1 week at a time. Improve on the things that try to improve on the things that you want to each and every week, and go out and play football, and not let 1 week roll into the next.
And Ryan Tannehill, to his credit, did exactly that. He said this after the game on Sunday. He was able to flush week 1, move on, and then after a rough first quarter, was able to throw a 70-yard bomb, 62.2 yards in the air to Treylon Burks, and everything turned around after that. And so we'll kind of see what happens with Deshaun Watson. And not having Nick Chubb, having Jerome Ford, who made a lot of plays on Monday night after the Chubb injury. But Deshaun Watson has a lot of money in his pocket. He got that 100% guaranteed contract from the Browns after the Texans trade, but hasn't necessarily lived up to it. So, Jack, let's go ahead and get the chat more involved here and ask the question out of the gates. Which quarterback has more on the line this week? Ryan Tannehill or Deshaun Watson? Which quarterback has more on the line this week between Ryan Tannehill or Deshaun Watson? We'll get to all of your answers here in a second, but first, let's tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever an injury happens in life, you got to make sure you know where to go, where to turn, and who to trust to get you back to health. And the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin has done that for me. They've done that for a lot of people I know, and they can do that for you or your son or daughter if a youth sports injury happens to go down. No worries. The Bone and Joint Institute will help you out. In Franklin, you can do everything right there Book an appointment today. Don't let that injury linger. boneandjointtn.org.
Yes, absolutely. Bone and Joint is a great place to go, especially if you're dealing with some joint pain. BetMGM is also a great place to go if you're looking to get some skin in the game. There's plenty of stuff to bet on, and as I try to pull up this BetMGM graphic, I'm not sure what's happening. There's plenty of stuff to bet on. Thursday night football, we got the Niners and the Giants this week. Coastal Carolina plays Georgia State, so there's action on both levels of the football world. But you can enjoy all of your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM by signing up with our code A to Z Sports and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win that first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. With BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. Find out why BetMGM is the king of sports books. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. First online real money wager only. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
All right, so Deshaun Watson or Ryan Tannehill. Jack, we asked everybody who or which quarterback has more on the line this week because, look, nobody was calling for Deshaun Watson's head when the Browns basically blanked the Bengals in week 1. Deshaun didn't have a great performance, but they got a big convincing win, and we're off to 1-0. And then he, allowed 2 defensive touchdowns from the Steelers, and they lose in week 2 on Monday night. Ryan Tannehill has the worst game of his pro career since his rookie year in week 1, turns it around and has one of his better quarterback rating type games in week 2, and the Titans win a game against the Chargers. So I'll send you to the chat. Which quarterback has more on the line this week? So Jack, what are you seeing from Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch?
The chat is cooking this morning. Some funny answers in the chat. Stephen King says Tanny. Deborah believes it's Watson. Tighten up's going Tannehill. So is Scary Harry. Eddie, our boy, says Tannehill. Eric Castillo also agrees. And Paul Arias is on the same page as those guys as well.
Wow.
Gene believes it's Watson. Hello, ladies, says Tannehill. Darius says Watson because that contract is atrocious. I say Watson, says Scott Weaver. Jamel agrees. So does IR Hoshi. Chris Frazier believes it's Tannehill. So does Cameron Strong and Reitz. Deshaun, says Pistol Ramsey, because he's got $250 million on the line. And kind of the same sentiment here as we go down through some of these answers in the chat from Guy Man. He's got to live up to the contract eventually. Bold and Bearded says Tannehill. Nick says Watson. Top Tier says Tanny. Titans Kyle says Tanny. Caleb says Money Talks. It's got to be Watson. And then Andre Bunting says Tannehill. So, I mean, it's fairly split today in the chat, but every reason that the listeners are giving for Watson is because of that big old contract he signed a year ago.
And I see some Tannehill answers that are saying it's Tannehill because he's in a contract year, right?
That's right.
And Matt says Tannehill has no pressure nationally. I don't know if I agree with that. I think Ryan Tannehill nationally it's a different type of pressure because Tannehill's pressure nationally is because nobody believes in him nationally, where Deshaun Watson's pressure nationally is because he got $230 guaranteed $million.
I see what you're saying. I do think that Tannehill, I kind of agree with that comment because I do think Tannehill's narratives are already kind of set in stone nationally, right? He's a guy that can get you to the playoffs and you kind of, sputter out from there. He's not a top 10 guy. He's maybe a top half guy. But, I don't think – and with Deshaun Watson, everybody saw how great he was when he was in Houston. I think he's still kind of got that billing to live up to, and you only add the money, and that brings on more pressure nationally. I think Watson's definitely under more pressure nationally.
Yeah, I mean – yeah, I guess, there's a lot to that here. Balazar Fire says Tannehill is playing for his job. Watson doesn't have anything to play for because he has that guaranteed money no matter what. I think Deshaun Watson has something to play for. But, yeah, that's why you don't give quarterbacks or anybody 100% guaranteed money because, what happens if he sucks, right? So let's show up the last 8 games from both of these quarterbacks in their last 8 starts. So we got Sam put our choose your fighter graphic together. So the last 8 starts for these two guys, passing yards, Edge, Tannehill. Total touchdowns includes 2 rushing touchdowns each. Edge barely, Deshaun Watson. Interceptions, Edge, Tannehill by a hair. And then quarterback rating, Tannehill significantly higher from a quarterback rating than Deshaun Watson. I think why this is a good comparison to make is because both of these offenses this year and last year are organized through the run game behind dominant running backs in Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry. Obviously, Nick Chubb is no longer around for the rest of the season, but he was for the majority of those 8 games that Deshaun Watson has started for the Browns. So, Jack, I'll have you answer the question right now. Which quarterback has more on the line this week between those two guys?
I think it's 100% Deshaun Watson. Tannehill's bounce back win against the Chargers last week, I think put a lot of concerns to bed. Now, the anti-Tannehill crowd's never going to get off his back, but I think a performance like that gives you a little more breathing room. However, Deshaun Watson, 8 games in Cleveland with all that money, he hasn't been who we once knew Deshaun Watson as. And in those 8 games, he's just 4-4. And a big part of beating the Titans, like I said earlier, is tearing up the secondary. You got to throw for multiple touchdowns to beat the Titans. Deshaun Watson's had 2 multi-touchdown games as a passer since he arrived in Cleveland. And look, they're coming off a loss to a division rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers, which ahead of the season, that's probably one team that you would hope to sweep if you're an AFC North team. We've already got the Ravens and the Bengals to deal with. So that's a bad loss, even though it does come on the road. And the Browns fans, man, those Tim Couch jerseys with the long list, the running list of quarterbacks that they've drafted for the past 2 decades that fans like to walk around in as just kind of like we've been through hell. This is what being a Cleveland Browns fan is like. The dog pound is pretty ruthless up there. And the difference between Deshaun Watson and those other 20 quarterbacks is most of those dudes were playing on rookie deals. Deshaun Watson is, in the top 10 for highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's absolutely got a lot of pressure on him. He's got more to prove. Still has yet to really put a solid game together in front of a home crowd. And he's in a spot similar to where Tannehill was last year. If Tannehill doesn't score and the Titans don't go on that scoring drive to end the half, you're going to hear some boos running into the locker room at halftime. Yeah. I think that Deshaun Watson is one bad half away from hearing it in Cleveland.
But I think the problem with saying Watson's got, what is Watson going to lose? Like, are they going to bench Deshaun Watson? I guess a follow-up question before I answer mine is, which quarterback is easier to bench this season for poor performance down the road? I'm not saying Tannehill's anywhere close to being benched. I don't think Watson's close to being benched. It's just going into week 3. But, what do the Browns have behind Deshaun Watson compared to what the Titans have behind Tannehill, where Tannehill's contract is done, Watson's is not? Like, they got how many more years of Deshaun Watson they have on the contract? I'm going to go look that up. And so you kind of catch what I'm asking here, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And you got to evaluate what the Browns have behind Watson. They moved on from Josh Dobbs because of how well Dorian Thompson-Robinson played. And we saw DTR at UCLA for a few years dominating the Pac-12. And he showed a lot of stuff in the preseason. I would be, just based on how his preseason went, if I was a Browns fan and Deshaun Watson wasn't going to get me there, or, we're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, I'd kind of like to see what the kid has. I know that the Browns front office and the brass won't probably let that happen just because of the money that they owe to Deshaun Watson. But I think it's easier to bitch Tannehill because he's got, he's in his last year and you've got 2 guys behind him as opposed to 1 guy. So I think Tannehill's easier to bench if performance isn't there, but I don't think that Deshaun Watson is completely off the hook either.
All right, so I'm going to answer the question, our first question of the day to you guys. Which quarterback has more on the line this week, Ryan Tannehill or Deshaun Watson? I'm going to get to that, but here in a second. First, and I got the contract details for Deshaun Watson. They're just ridiculous.
The heinous.
Oh my God, so heinous. But first, Krebs Kubota, not heinous at all. Krebs Kubota is fantastic because they have been serving Middle Tennesseans for over 18 years. for any equipment needed. Equipment, what does that mean? It can mean your trimmer, your mower, whatever you need outside to work at your home, out in the lawn. Krebs Kubota's got that. If you need the bigger equipment for the property that you might have out there, the acreage that you've got out in the county land in Middle Tennessee, they've got everything big or small for you, whether it's utility vehicles, tillers, hay balers, plow mowers, tractors, whatever it is. That's where Krebs Kubota's expertise is. They have amazing locations, 3 of them to be exact, in Murfreesboro, Columbia, and in Franklin, but they are an elite Kubota dealer. That means they have the connections to Kubota for the best equipment in the industry and the best warranties in the industry, which is super important because warranties are key with equipment because things break down. You're using force, a lot of energy, but that's okay because that's where Krebs Kubota helps you out. It's so important to have a relationship with your equipment provider, and that's what you can do in Columbia, Franklin, and in Murfreesboro at KrebsKubota.com.
Big or small, BetMGM's got it all. And if you want to get some skin in the game this football season, don't be afraid to sign up with BetMGM. They've got everything down to player props, to side bets, to totals. You can bet whatever you'd like on BetMGM. They've got a ton of stuff, and their live betting system is also second to none. But you can get an even bigger advantage by signing up with code A to Z Sports. That's ATOZ Sports, and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Now, we all want you to win your first bet, but if you happen to lose it by some mistake, then BetMGM's got your back. Up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win that first bet, but you have to sign up with our code A to Z Sports.
All right, so Jack, we're asking the question, which quarterback has more pressure this week between Ryan Tannehill and Deshaun Watson? So you answered Watson, right?
Yes, I think that Watson absolutely has more pressure at this point.
All right, so I'm going to throw the stats up here because here are the stats in their last 8 starts for their teams. Tannehill, slightly more yards, 1855 to Deshaun Watson's 1491. Watson has 9 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing. Tannehill, 8 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing. 7 INTs for Watson, 6 INTs for Tannehill. Quarterback rating of just under 77 for Watson, and Tannehill's just over 90. So if you're looking at those stats, like who would you rather have? I mean, I think you would rather have Ryan Tannehill because I think Ryan Tannehill is playing better, which means Deshaun Watson is playing worse. But Jack,
and you can make a case that Tannehill's done more with less as well between those.
Totally. Yeah. Ryan Tannehill last year, because he only had 2 starts this year, right? Last year, Ryan Tannehill's last 6 starts, he didn't have anybody to throw to or an offensive line, where Deshaun Watson still had Amari Cooper last year and some other weapons that they have up there in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson might be playing worse, but Ryan Tannehill has more pressure on him this week because let's just look at the balls that Deshaun Watson has the Browns by, because he has 3 more seasons under contract, 100% guaranteed by the Browns at $46 million base salary each year. That's so much money that Deshaun Watson is under. After this season, Jack, Deshaun Watson's dead cap is $200 million. So that means if Deshaun Watson sucks that bad, and the Browns are like, man, we need to go in a different direction, cutting Deshaun Watson would count about 85% of the Browns' cap space next year for one guy to not play for you. So Deshaun Watson doesn't have that much pressure because he's not going anywhere. Like, the Browns can't do anything if he sucks. Now, Ryan Tannehill, the Titans have a couple options if Ryan Tannehill sucks that bad. And so I think Ryan Tannehill has more pressure because the only person whose job is on the line is Ryan Tannehill's. And I'm not saying Tannehill's going to get benched this month, next month, November, December, but Ryan Tannehill's not under contract next year, where Deshaun Watson's going to collect, let me count it up. Next year, Deshaun Watson's yearly cash, $46 million times 3. That's the next 3 years that he's going to be getting, which is absolutely absurd and criminal by the Browns to give Deshaun Watson that type of money. But that's why Tannehill's got more pressure.
I disagree because Tannehill's a 3-point underdog going on the road. Deshaun Watson's going to be without his best weapon in Nick Chubb, and he's going to have to do something that he hasn't been able to do in Cleveland yet, and that's beat somebody with his arm. He's a 500 quarterback. He's 4-4 in Cleveland, like I mentioned. They're not paying him to be a 500 quarterback. And this is a fan base who, when they handed out that contract to Deshaun Watson, he was supposed to be the guy that came in and made them forget about all of their misses in the draft. He has yet to do that, and I don't think he's capable of doing that. Just watching him play on Sundays. I just think that there's more pressure on him because he's going to have to turn it loose this weekend against the Titans defense. It's going to be breathing down his throat. Like I said earlier, this offensive line gave up 6 sacks in week 2 against the Steelers. He's going to be without Jack Conklin as right tackle. He's going to be without Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper's banged up. We'll see if he plays. It's all on Watson this week. Tannehill's got Henry back there.
Yeah, all right. So I'll ask it this way, Jack, because you made some good points. What are the consequences? Let's just say the Browns. I'm going to pull up the Browns schedule over the next few games, if I can find it fast enough. Let's say the Browns, who are 1-1 right now, let's say they lose to the Titans and Deshaun Watson plays poorly like he has so far in his 8 starts. Next week, they have the Baltimore Ravens. Let's say they lose that one. Then let's say they lose to, guess who they play in week 5? The San Francisco 49ers. The Browns all of a sudden find themselves at 1-4. And Deshaun Watson is not playing very well. Then they have the Colts. Maybe they can win that game, but then the Seahawks, and they got the Cardinals who suck. But then, look, Ravens, Steelers back again before their schedule continues to get tough. What are the consequences for Deshaun Watson if they are 1-4 going to Indianapolis? And all of these losses are to AFC teams minus the Niners. If Deshaun Watson is playing poorly like he is, what are his consequences if the Browns are 1-4?
I want to say a couple things first. First, for the Titans, it's nice to be in that divisional sandwich, right? You've got 2 huge divisional games. You fit right in the middle, and obviously divisional games matter more. They're not going to overlook the Titans by any means, but it is nice to kind of be in that middle spot. And secondly, the Niners game. People forget that teams that have played the Niners that go on to play the next week have lost 16 times in a row. So you're not only losing to the Niners, but because of the Niners, you're losing that next game. So the Browns could be in some serious doo-doo here. And just because he's getting paid, the fans don't give a damn. If he's not playing well, you know what the dog pound's going to start saying? What? DTR, DTR, DTR.
So you're going to bench a guy that's got north of $150 million guaranteed less on his contract?
I'm not saying they have to bench him. I'm going to say the fans are going to call for it if he doesn't step it up here.
Here's what I say.
It's just the nature of the beast. The fans don't care about the contract.
Here's what but his employer does. Here's the reality. Deshaun Watson is walking through life on and off the field with no consequences. He can do and has done whatever the hell he wants, good or bad, a lot of it bad, on and off the field, very little consequences. Because if the Browns are 1-4, Deshaun Watson's not going anywhere. If the Browns are 2-7 towards the end of October or end of November, the Browns are sticking with Deshaun Watson because that's the only choice they had. So
sure,
once
until
again,
they're mathematically eliminated, and then you can make a decision.
No, but he's not going anywhere because they have 3 years of paying him $46 million per year that they are locked into. So it does not matter what Deshaun Watson does. He will play as the Browns quarterback. The Browns have no other option but to play Deshaun Watson because of the stupid ass contract they gave him. It's so bad. It's so bad. This is why every owner is looking at Jimmy Haslam like, you idiot, because now every other quarterback's trying to get more money because this dumbass in Cleveland, I'm glad he stopped meddling with Knoxville's athletic department and go up there and do this in Cleveland. But good Lord. I mean, there are he could be, who's the worst starting quarterback in the league right now?
The worst starting quarterback?
Yeah.
Probably the guy in Arizona, sadly.
Or like Zach Wilson or, whoever else, right? Like
you can make a case for a handful of guys.
Yeah, he could be way worse than Josh Dobbs. He could be way worse than Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. It doesn't matter. He has the job security just that nobody deserves. Like
No, I
nobody
agree.
deserves this job security.
Just because you're not going to get benched doesn't mean you're not under a tremendous amount of pressure, though, right? I mean, there's a ton of quarterbacks that aren't going to lose their job this year that are under a bunch of pressure. Lamar Jackson's under a lot of pressure. Joe Burrow, he's not under pressure to lose his job, but I mean, at some point he's got to win the big one, right? And an 0-2 start sure isn't helping. Justin Herbert, he's way too good to be missing the playoffs on a yearly basis. There's a lot of good quarterbacks that have a lot of pressure that aren't going to lose their jobs anytime soon. Just because Deshaun Watson's job is secure because of his contract doesn't mean he's not under a tremendous amount of pressure in Cleveland. The standard has been raised in Cleveland with this contract. The standard is raised in Cleveland because you have a very capable roster. You can make a run in the playoffs if everyone's there. Not having Nick Chubb makes a difference. But the Browns absolutely have an AFC championship caliber roster surrounding Deshaun Watson. He's not going to meet those expectations, and he's going to miss them on a yearly basis. So there's a great amount of pressure around Deshaun Watson's performance this year because, look, you can get away with having a tough season last year. He came in late.
Yeah,
there wasn't a whole lot to prove. You know,
was out a year, right? All that stuff.
Exactly. There wasn't a whole lot of, but he had a full offseason this time, and he gets a fresh slate. And if he poops the bed again, I'm telling you, man, there's gonna be a lot of noise in Cleveland. They're sick and tired of this stuff.
Yeah. So if the Titans beat the Browns, there is a realistic chance that the Browns could be 3-7 or 2-8 because they've got winnable games against the Colts on the road, the Seahawks on the road, and the Cardinals at home, right? Like, are they winning all three of these games? Probably not. So there's a chance that 3-7 is the reality. If the Titans are 3-7, Ryan Tannehill is done. Like, it is now time for them to figure out Malik or Levis, Willis or Will. Like that's what the Titans are going to do. If the Browns are 3-7, Deshaun Watson's playing in game number 11 to see if he can get him to 4-7 because that's the only option they got. So Ryan Tannehill has way more on the line than Deshaun Watson ever will. Because how much guaranteed money does Ryan Tannehill have on his contract in 2024? Zero. Watson's got $46 million.
But it's not like Ryan Tannehill's career ends if the Titans don't bring him back.
No, but there's but if Ryan Tannehill plays well and the Titans make the playoffs and Ryan Tannehill's back towards what he looked like pre-last season, now Ryan Tannehill can put $30 million into it on his revenue sheet for next year by somebody, maybe not the Titans, but somebody's going to pay him something.
Yeah, and starting over at 35 plus as a quarterback is a tough task. I mean, it's really tough. We've seen Kirk Cousins try it, and I feel like it's gone about as well for him, and he hasn't won any playoff games. So
you've seen it go well with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. You've seen it completely flop and pop with one play like Aaron Rodgers.
But yeah, we shouldn't put Ryan Tannehill's name in the same conversation as any of those guys.
No, but you're talking about quarterbacks north of 35 changing teams,
making a change. Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard thing to do, and I'm sure Tannehill would rather stay here because that's where he's got momentum. He's familiar with the system. He's familiar with his targets, and I think there's a sense of comfortability here with him, despite him having to run for his life every third play. So to me, I just think that there's a lot of pressure on Deshaun Watson. The contract says it all, and the fact that he hasn't even shown a glimpse of the old Deshaun Watson that we saw in Houston is absolutely concerning. And we're 8 games in. I mean, when's he going to show something? Like Tannehill, sure, he has his bad days, but he typically doesn't string a whole lot of bad days together. Yeah, right? There's a lot of good days mixed in between his bad days.
No, I don't disagree. All right, A to Z Sports here live on this Thursday. Got some super chats I want to get to here in a second from Amnesia, making an analogy that I find questionable, but we'll get to it. But first, let me tell you guys about Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans can help you out with whatever your health coverage is. Farm Bureau Health Plans, pretty good chance they could make it better for you because they did that with Zach. They've done that with several people that watch our show, that work for A to Z, because they can help you out with your health, dental, and vision. And you can get your process started by going to fbhp.com/ATOZ. They've been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. They have 200 plus locations. I believe it's 218 to be exact these days. You can walk in anywhere. There's a Farm Bureau Health Plans near you. But also, it's just so easy to get started online. A health assessment takes 20 or 30 minutes, and you're on your way to finding a better health plan that could actually save you money and have better coverage and beautiful customer service. Check them out online, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Check these guys out online. BetMGM, they're the king of sports books, and that's for a reason. Sign up with our code A to Z Sports, ATOZ Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Bet it however you'd like. There's plenty of action going on. The MLB playoffs are right around the corner. Hockey season's closer to starting up than I realized. I found that out yesterday. And with football in full swing, there's always games going on during the week. So sign up on BetMGM with our code A to Z Sports. Take advantage of this great offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win that first bet.
All right. So, Jack, a couple super chats. Amnesia says the Titans are not talked about in the media. However, Watson is all over the media. Media influence puts all the pressure on Watson. Tannehill is auditioning for his next team. Tannehill has no pressure. I think anybody who's auditioning for something, there's pressure because because you're auditioning for an unknown. There's no guarantee. There's not a job. You are trying out, and nobody's. I think that's the last part of that's questionable. But the Titans are not talked about in the media unless people are poking fun at Ryan Tannehill typically. But Watson has a lot of pressure. But that contract is a massive safety net because, like, if Deshaun Watson if you wanted to define Deshaun Watson's pressure as being at the edge of a cliff and the Browns fans push him off the cliff, he's just going to be like, oh, and he's going to just splash into a pool of money that's going to protect him. He's like, oh, great. This is cool down here. Like, that's Deshaun Watson's pressure. If Ryan Tannehill's on the edge of the cliff and Titans fan pushes him off, he's splat. Like, that's just how that's going to go.
So I have one final point to make. Ryan Tannehill's tenure with the Tennessee Titans, I think, can already be deemed as a success. Now, I'm gonna hear it from the chat because some of you guys are gonna say he hasn't done enough. He hasn't won the big one. He's 37-20 as a starter, right? Like, Ryan Tannehill has won a lot of football games in Tennessee. Deshaun Watson's tenure in Cleveland is yet to be defined. And the way things are going, it's not going to look like 37-20. I just think that even if this is like Tannehill's last year, I think Titans fans are going to look back on this Tannehill era and say, you know what? Gave up a 7th-round pick for the guy. He came in as a backup. How could you not call it a success? So I just think that Tannehill's story is just about written in Tennessee. And, he gave, there's a lot of great games to look back on, a lot of great memories he gave Titans fans. Deshaun Watson hasn't done any of that stuff. He hasn't won a playoff game in Cleveland. I just think there's more pressure for a guy who is yet to prove that he was the right decision for Cleveland. Tannehill, you can make a case he's already, the Titans made the right choice for, by going out and getting Tannehill. I think that's obvious for Titans fans with a brain. Some of the chat disagrees, but I mean, they need to be put in the corner with a dunce hat. I just think that Tannehill's story's kind of been written at this point, and that for that reason, I think there's less pressure. Deshaun Watson's got to figure out who he is, and the Browns got to figure out who Deshaun Watson is. So with a lot of work left to do in that category, I think that Deshaun Watson's under more pressure.
All right. So Emilio says, would you drive on a flat tire simply because you paid $200 for the tire? The rim matters the most. Yeah, but like, I don't know. So I want you to how do you decipher this analogy, Jack? Because like, who is he talking about? Tannehill or Watson? Because Watson's way more expensive than a $200 tire.
Yeah, $200 tire isn't a bad deal.
Deshaun Watson is the transmission. Deshaun Watson is the most expensive thing in the car that you're just like,
Yeah, no, I like that though, because if he's holding you back, the problem is they don't have an established veteran behind him, right? If you had somebody who'd come in and won games as a starter, say Gardner Minshew behind you, then maybe you make the move. But I just don't know how much better things get if you pull him in favor of a rookie in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But that doesn't mean the Cleveland Browns fans aren't going to start chanting his name if the Browns are sitting here at 1-6.
Right. Says, but to replace that tire, you have to give up half the car for the next year.
Yeah, you got to ride a bike around town for a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the longer. Because like that, Deshaun Watson is way more than a tire. Tires, I'm going to make this analogy, right? Tires are running backs. You have to replace them every few years anyway, right? Like they have tread off the tires, all of that. That's what the tire is, where, yeah, the rim's more important because you're going to change the tires every however thousands of miles. Deshaun Watson is not the tires. That was a bad analogy. I got what you're trying to do, but that's not how that works. Deshaun Watson is the thing that either makes you buy a brand new car and ditch the car altogether when it goes down, or you're going to spend way too much money trying to fix it, and it's going to become a money suckhole. Like that's what Deshaun Watson is.
It's, this brings me back to one of Colin Cowherd's most, in my mind, it's something that's stuck with me. It says you pay for two things in life. You pay for transportation and you pay for quarterbacks, but you got to get them both right. Because you can't go in every 2-3 years and pay a different quarterback or buy a different car. You're going to run out of money. So Deshaun Watson, this is their transportation. He's their quarterback. He's got to get them to where they need to be. And look, you can pay him this amount of money, but for 5 more years, I mean that's
3 more years. 3 more years.
Is it 3 more?
3 after this year, right? So he's already got like I'll pull back up. Deshaun
so really
Watson's
4, including this year.
Yeah, and because it's so early, right? Deshaun Watson's yearly cash this year and through 2026, his yearly cash is $46 million a year, even.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's all guaranteed. It's not like that's the dead cap is $200 million after this season.
Yeah,
even if you want to cut Deshaun Watson before the 2026 season, when he's 31 years old, the dead cap's $73 million.
They can't cut him. They'd have to trade him, and God knows who would want to take that contract on the books.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. All right. Let's see. Vibrunner says, Austin, you're overthinking the analogy. Stop crying and trying to shut the man down. I'm not crying. I just think it was a bad analogy. You give your opinions. I give my opinions about your opinions. That's how the show works. All right. More opinions. All right. So there's something that's being over talked about in my mind. We'll talk about that here in a second with Jim Schwartz, old friend alert. But first, telling you guys about Aura. Hey, if you want to protect yourself online, use the Aura app and get a 2-week free trial with our link, aura.com/ATOZ. That's aura.com/ATOZ for a 2-week free trial. Data brokers, that's who bothers you and sells all of your information to the telemarketers, spammers, and robocallers. And Aura will automatically submit opt-out requests on your behalf to get rid of those data brokers in your life. That happened with me. 30 data brokers were selling my information. Aura took 5 or 6 days and stripped away my information from those data brokers. Again, we're giving you a 2-week free trial. So that's 2 weeks for free with our link, aura.com/ATOZ. Once you get rid of the data brokers, then you start working on your password protection and management, working on your credit identity theft monitoring as well, parental controls if you've got young kids that are using devices as well at home. Aura can do it all in a 2-week free trial, aura.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM can also do it all. That's why they're called the king of sportsbooks. And by signing up with code A2Z Sports, you'll receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Sign up today. Get some action down. The Niners and the Giants play tonight. As Saquon Barkley-less Giants are taking on a tough 49ers team. And you've got action on the college field as well with Coastal Carolina and Georgia State. Should be a high-scoring one, very fun. But if you want to get in on the action today, make sure to sign up with our code A2Z Sports so you can cash in on this great offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet.
All right, so Jack, we were talking in our pre-show meeting with me, you, and Sam, and I brought this up. I feel like Jim Schwartz being the defensive coordinator for the Browns after being a defensive senior analyst for the Titans the last 2 years is getting a lot of attention. And look, Jim Schwartz is a good guy, great coach. He's been with the Titans in this organization for a long time, now in multiple stints across his NFL coaching career. But we're going to ask this question, and we're going to give you guys in the chat some opportunity to answer it. But here's how we're going to form it. Jim Schwartz facing his former team, the Titans. Is this a big deal, small deal, or no deal? A big deal, small deal, or no deal that Jim Schwartz is the Browns defensive coordinator facing the Tennessee Titans again. Here was Mike Vrabel. I guess this was yesterday, being asked about Schwartzy.
Anything that we asked him to do, or Shane asked him to do, he did. Then he kind of started on, wanted to transition or have an opportunity to coordinate again, and so he was honest and upfront with me, and him and I, we communicated, and then he had a few opportunities, and he felt like this one was the right one for him, and the timing worked out. So I was happy for him that he was able to come here, stay involved, help us, and then also now go and coordinate.
So there's Mike Vrabel talking about Jim Schwartz. So Jack, I'll send you to the chat. Big deal, small deal, or no deal from everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Jim Schwartz facing his old team.
Yeah, let's start with Ira Hochi. He says no deal. Deborah believes it's a small deal. Ashley says no deal. Andre believes it's a small deal. He's on the same page as Scott, Mike, and Brandon, and Guy. A lot of small deals coming in here. DeMario says small. Jarvis says small. Jaron says small. Reed says small. I hope I'm saying that right. No deal from Jason. Charlie believes it's a small deal. Schmedium deal, says Stephen King. Big deal from Jason. Johnny says small deal. Eddie says small deal. Curtis says small deal. Eric believes it's not a deal at all. Happens all the time, says Chris Bork. So it's a no deal for him. Cameron, our first big deal of the chat. It's a big deal to Cameron. Orlando says small. Billy says no deal. Schwartz is overrated. The smallest deal, says Mike Peck. Rawl says small deal. Small deal from Titans Kyle. TLG coming in with a big deal. He knows where the offensive bodies are buried. I like that comment a lot. No deal from Mr. Jones. No deal, says William. We still running his scheme? If not, no deal. Big deal from Kin, and a small deal from Aaron. Nate's burner also says small deal. So, Austin, I'll ask you first here. In your opinion, is this a big deal, small deal, or no deal?
I'm going to say no deal. I don't think this matters. Like, everybody knows personnel. Like, it's not like it's a secret. I think it's a no deal because the Titans are very different from a schematic standpoint on offense. And could Jim Schwartz help out the Browns offense, know what the Titans scheme is? I mean, yeah, sure. But like, who gives a rip? Like, that's not a secret either. Like, oh, he knows about Kevin Byard. All right, great. So does everybody else that's a defensive or offensive coordinator in the NFL, because Byard's been in the league for 7 years. Arden Key's new. There's Aziz is new. There's so many new people on the Titans team this year that personnel has changed. And then you flip it over to the offense. We've already noticed this. Like, me and Sam did a show yesterday about Tim Kelly's changes. This is not the same offense that Jim Schwartz saw in practice and on games the last 2 years when he was a senior analyst for the Titans defense. It's very different. They're passing the football on first and second down almost 50% of the time against the Chargers. Last year, it was like 65% run on first alone. And so I think it's an absolute no deal. No deal on this.
I'm going to steal Stephen King's comment. I think it's a schmedium deal. I think it's a little bit bigger than a small deal, a little less than a big deal.
So it's in between big and small?
It's in between big and small for me. And the reason why is because remember what happened when the Titans went up to Philadelphia last year? A.J. Brown said he relayed all the checks, all the calls, all the verbiage to the Eagles defense, and they were prepared for everything the Titans threw at them.
Why? Because they didn't change anything.
Because they didn't change it, sure. Because Todd Downing was still in charge.
They've changed it all.
Schwartz was here when Kelly was here. I know it wasn't Kelly's offense last year, but it has to be a deal. It has to be some sort of deal because of what happened when A.J. Brown relayed all of that information to the Eagles defense last year. Look, the Titans, but we had Buck Rising on the Tighten Up podcast this week, and he said essentially since the Malarkey days, they've had just 3 different variations of the same offense. Like, they haven't changed a whole lot, have they? I mean, sure, there are some offensive coordinators that have come in and been more creative than others, Todd Downing. But for the most part, they kind of run the same way. And if the verbiage isn't changed up, hopefully they learned that lesson in Philadelphia last year, because if the verbiage isn't changed up, The checks at the line aren't changed up.
But
And I
that the
expect Cleveland
verbiage
to be all
has
over it.
though. That's my thought. The verbiage
Sure.
has. And
Sure.
because there was a massive story, and look, Curtis says Jack is right, and like a big story this offseason was Tim Kelly changing the verbiage. It was going to the up tempo. They were changing long play calls to being short 1 or 2 word code names. And so AJ Brown, was there for Todd Downing. And then Todd Downing didn't change anything. So he told him everything. Jim Schwartz has not been around the Titans facility for any days since Tim Kelly's been the offensive coordinator. It's changed a ton just in how it might be similar from a execution standpoint, but how they get there, how they communicate it, how they line up, and the tendencies that they have are completely different under Tim Kelly.
I mean, you're talking about going up against a defensive coordinator that was on your staff last year. This wasn't 2-3 years ago. This was last year.
But they've like, how much did they change? But like, think about how much they've changed.
It's a deal. It's not a no deal.
It's a no deal. But it's a no deal. The play caller in Tim Kelly is different. The scheme is adjusted to him too. Look at all the different changes they've made on the offensive skill position. New line coach, Tony Dews went from running backs to tight ends. You bring in a new running backs coach in Charles London. I mean, Rob Moore is really the only guy that's in his same role as a position coach on the offense. Pat O'Hara is not even the quarterback coach anymore. Like they brought in another guy for that.
And we're talking offense right now. We haven't even talked about the defense and all the players he's familiar with their strengths, with their weaknesses. I mean, he can be in offensive meetings as well. I'm just saying, this is a deal. It has to be some sort of deal. You can debate whether it's a small deal or a big deal. I'm kind of writing that line in the middle. It's absolutely a deal. Whenever you go up against a former coach the following year, they're going to bring information. They're going to bring intel. It's just the nature of the game. This is how the NFL works, whether it's a player who moved like A.J. Brown or a coach who makes a move like Jim Schwartz.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because how many okay, so Jim Schwartz knows the tendencies of who? T.R. Tart? Oh my God.
No, it doesn't have to be T.R. Tart. I mean,
okay,
it could be the secondary. It could be the secondary. It could be the linebacker group. I know that they kind of
know the tendencies of the secondary. Like it's not that difficult. Like, I know what Amani Hooker's good at and what he struggles at. I have 0 degrees in football. I've other than just staying at a Holiday Inn last night and watching football for my entire life. But it doesn't matter. Everybody knows that. Like it's public information. Film is there. Everything's public. And so Jim Schwartz is a good coach. I just don't think it has any outcome.
So you don't think by being on the Titan staff last year, Jim Schwartz has an iota of an edge? There's not an iota of an edge that Jim Schwartz has by being with the Titans for the last 2 years. I think that's ludicrous. And that's essentially what we're talking about here.
Which individual does Jim Schwartz have the most edge over?
It's not an individual. I'm just saying he's got familiarity with these players who he's been working with for the past 2 seasons. And he's got familiarity with the offense and what they do well and what Tannehill likes to do. It's not far-fetched to say that this is a deal and that Jim Schwartz does bring some sort of information over to Cleveland because he's absolutely doing that. He's in meetings this week talking about, okay, you want to force him outside. You want to force him inside. Okay, this is what the offensive line is going to do when you send this stunt. It's small stuff like that can make a big difference in the game.
So Kyle says, Austin, you're completely blowing over that the DC is the same, and so is the scheme. Yes, half the players are different, but the scheme isn't. This is Mike Vrabel's 6th year. Like the scheme has been the same all 6 seasons. Like and how many times have they played the Browns? They played Stefanski once, right? Maybe twice, once. And when Baker Mayfield lit up the Titans defense, Stefanski knows too. Like it's not like it's rocket science. It's not. I guess my point and why it's a no deal is because Jim Schwartz knows the Titans players and scheme. Okay. So does Kevin Stefanski. Because why? Because he talks to all the other coaches, just like every coach talks to coaches, and they get the film that's public information. And that's it. And Ken says the Steelers scheme hasn't changed in years. No, it hasn't. Mike Tomlin's been the head coach for a decade and a half. Defensive scheme's really good, and their players are good, and they scored 2 touchdowns on Monday night to beat the Browns. And the Browns play them twice a year. Oh my gosh, the familiarity. Like it's no deal.
Stefanski didn't have access to the Steelers playbook the year before he moved. Like this, Schwartz played a big role in this defense, whether you want to admit it or not. And you can go to his title and try and downplay that.
but like,
but
but still,
I'm just saying that this has to be a deal. It can't be a no deal. I think that no deal is the worst answer of the three here.
I no, it's an absolute no deal because it does not matter what Jim Schwartz can tell them. They can find that information from anybody else that's been around the Titans or has played against the Titans. I'm sure that Kevin Stefanski or somebody on his Browns staff has somebody who's played against the Titans multiple times, 4 or 5 times over the last few years that Vrabel's been running the show.
But
right?
do you go to that guy first, or do you go to Jim Schwartz, who was literally employed by the Titans, cashing checks with the Titans on the freaking check? Like this is a big deal.
My point, no, it's not. My point is the information can be received by the Browns anyway, regardless of Jim Schwartz being there or not.
You can make an argument for both sides, and at the end of the day, we'll probably never know where Schwartz took advantage of the Titans unless they come out and just absolutely trick the Titans offensive line, which probably isn't all that hard to do. Schwartz won't get enough credit if that happens.
But again, but they're doing that anyway. Like the Browns are what, number 1 and number 2 in passing yards and rushing yards allowed. Like they're already really damn good. So even if the Browns defense shuts down the Titans offense, it's not like, aha, look, Jim Schwartz.
He's not going to get his credit. Yeah.
No, but they were doing that anyway. They did it to Joe Burrow. Jim Schwartz wasn't on the Bengals staff the last 2 years. They made Joe Burrow look like he was losing his job at Ohio State.
We're getting off the tracks.
No, I'm not. I'm not. My point is the Browns defense is really talented and they're very good with Jim Schwartz or without Jim Schwartz. They're really good against the team. The Titans are not the Titans. The Browns defense is going to be good. I don't think Jim Schwartz has any impact on inside information or anything like that. I think it's all about the players the Browns have versus the players the Titans have. And Jim Schwartz can give the same information about the Titans players that other coaches can around the league. Everybody's got the same film to watch. That's the situation.
I understand that. I'm just saying that Schwartz is a few layers deeper into that game, having coached these players for the last 2 years. There is some stuff that he's going to take and he's going to use. We'll never know because we're not in those meetings. But I mean, how could you not? What is Jim Schwartz going to go in there and just say, forget about my last 2 years. Here's what they're doing this year.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's not a big deal. It's no deal. It's Jim Schwartz is good at his job, regardless if he spent the last 2 years on the Titans staff as an analyst or not. Jim Schwartz is good at his job. Jacqueline says, Austin, you'll have a different opinion after Sunday. No, because here's my expectation.
I hope Austin's right. I hope you're right.
But my expectation is not a lot of points because the Browns defense is one of the best in the NFL. The Titans defense is really good at not giving up points when they give up a lot of yards, and their run defense is really strong too. And so I think that's the game. And the Browns offense is not very strong either. So, edge to both defenses. That's the game.
Sure.
And regardless if Jim Schwartz is there or not.
I get it. I get it. I get where you're coming from. I just think that in order for it to be a no deal, then we would have to be confident that Jim Schwartz is not taking any intel, any inside information into this week's game plan. And I believe there's a 0% chance that that's happening. I think he's absolutely using his knowledge from the last 2 years, whether it's 5% of the game plan, 10%, whatever it is. But if it's more than 0%, it has to be a deal.
No, if Todd Downing was still the offensive coordinator, I would say it's a big deal because Jim Schwartz has been in those meetings and he understands what Todd Downing does and he's got data to prove it in the building. It's a different coordinator. It's a different play caller. Tim Kelly's changing stuff up and Jim Schwartz hasn't been around for that.
But it's the same Titans defense.
I don't care. It's been the same Titans defense since 2018. But it's been the same thing.
Or not, doesn't change the fact that it's the same scheme that they've been running for years.
I don't think it matters. Kevin Stefanski played this Titans defense 2 years ago. Right? It doesn't matter. It's the same scheme. Same scheme. They're going to do the same stunts. It's about, does Danico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons, do they just dominate the rookie right tackle on 3rd and 7? Jim Schwartz has nothing to do with that. It's about Danico Autry bodying up somebody.
Well, no, Jim Schwartz isn't Superman here. I just think that I think that there's some stuff that he's going to take into the game plan. And if he takes even one thing into the game plan, then I think it has to be some sort of a deal. And I think it would be absolutely nuts if he didn't bring any of his knowledge and intel into that locker room, into those meetings this week. That's why I believe it's a deal.
Yeah,
and we're gonna have to agree to disagree. We could do this.
No, that's fine because we can definitely move on. We've talked through this enough. We know where each other stands. We're drawing the line in the sand and we're staying on our sides. All right, A to Z Sports here live on this Thursday. It is that time, Jack, for the Magic Bucket. By Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. Make them a part of it because they do a fantastic job. Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon at Wilson County Hyundai will help you out on the right ride for you, regardless of your financial situation. They'll make it happen for you in Lebanon or online at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Jack, you have not eaten your $15 worth of Taco Bell yet. So you're going to have to do that before Sunday.
Yeah, I realize that I have to do that, and it will be done, and you'll get a receipt, and I may even tweet it all out. If any of the chat has any ideas on their favorite menu items, I'm not a Taco Bell frequenter. Go ahead and send them in here. And also, while we're drawing, let's get those likes up to 50. We're at 35 right now. We've got over 250 people in here. Let's get 15 more likes on the show, and I'll tweet out the Taco Bell receipt as soon as I go there.
There you go. We got Facebook's behind today. You guys need to step it up with the likes. I believe that YouTube's got more likes. Facebook,
we're on the move. 39. Here we go. Keep it coming. Let's get to 50. Who's going to be number 50?
This is for you, Jack. I don't think you've ever done this. I did this, and this was one of my most embarrassing show moments ever.
Oh no! Don't say that.
No, it's okay. It's that's my fault. It's not because of this. It's because of me.
Oh, okay.
All right, so you have to say the alphabet as fast as you can.
The chat's on fire.
You have to say the alphabet as fast as you possibly can. So I'm getting the timer set up. Why this was so awful and embarrassing for me is because I forgot the alphabet by trying to say it so fast. I got frozen and could not say it correctly. I kept skipping like 8 letters, and I was having a malfunction in my brain. So, all right, Jack.
Let's set an over under. I want to time this.
I mean, Zach did it like 3 seconds. Sam did it like really fast. Yeah.
All right, let's set it at 5.5 seconds.
Okay.
No, it's got to be 6.5. 6.5 seconds over under. Place your bets in the chat. I want to see what y'all are doing. Austin, you gonna time me?
Yeah. I've got my timer set up. So as soon as you say A, I hit the timer. This is kind of like a 40 hand time. We don't have the laser technology on that, but I think you said 6.5.
Let's do 5.5. I think 5.5 is more fair. Okay.
I'm gonna say, well,
I just kind of went over it in my head, and there's after the MNOP, it could get dicey for me, but I think I can get through this. I do know the alphabet, by the way.
Yeah. All right. So when you say A, I hit the start button.
Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. That was like 3 seconds. Three, 4. Okay, I like that. I like that time. That's good time. That's good time. I'm happy with that.
Pretty good.
Are you impressed?
Yeah, because I just couldn't complete it. I had a malfunction.
Oh, it was the challenge.
Oh, I had to give
completely.
up. I had to give up. It was just well, no, I didn't give up. It took like a minute and a half because the clock started and I just couldn't do it. I don't think I've ever done this. I have to make a fart noise in my mouth.
I think I've done this recently.
Well, I don't think I have, but here we go. There's my fart noise right there. Boo? How is that a boo?
Boo. That one doesn't even stink. You need a thicker one than that.
I'm not trying to hurt my cheeks or anything. Trying to get
see Matt remembers mine. I can't pin that sadly, but Matt remembers.
Oh man. Well,
Not a bad magic bucket today.
not terrible. Quick, right? Fart noise and
Nobody-
alphabet and
no-
under 3.5.
Nobody's reputations were totally ruined on this show.
That's right. All right. Hey, it's Thursday, which means Titans at 2 with Sam Phelan coming up at 2:00 today after Sam talks to the coordinators after 2 days of practice this week. Excuse me. Titans at 2 coming up on these same channels you're watching right here, our brand new Monday and Thursday show with Sam. So get ready for Titans at 2 and also Titan Game Day Live coming up with Sam and Jack on Sunday. We'll talk more about that tomorrow on Friday. But as you're heading out of here, make sure you give a like to the show, hit that thumbs up button. We need those likes on the show on Facebook and on YouTube. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow on Friday.
Tighten Up Podcast, Buck Rising out now.